teachers and trainers, professors and professionals, listeners and learners, those who are listening from the field of science, religion, spirituality, arts, commerce and engineering. It is really nice time, nice place, nice action, listening with 100% present sense of mind. Dear friends, you are listening today's topic, nature, scope and concept of language. Simply, generally we study about the language. What is language? We read through the different concept of the languages. Language is the expression of thoughts. Fundamentally and practically, we have different type of expressions. Through the language, we express listening, reading, writing, speaking, and these are the four modules of learning. For knowing in detail about these concepts, we have to go through the fundamentals. What are the fundamentals of all these four modules? That is the concept of word. Because when we study the sentence itself says that a group of words which expresses complete meaning and complete sense. When we talk about the phrase, what is a phrase? A group of words which makes incomplete meaning and incomplete sense. So dear friends, you must understand this thing. Our language is the expression of our thoughts and ideas. Different messengers, those who came on this land, they belonged to the different caste, color, creed, language. Because of the variations, differentiations, diversities, adversities, they addressed the people with their different rituals, customs and cultures. So this is the biggest and greatest feature of our nation, unity in diversity. After all, we are to understand, we are to go through the background, the religious reformers and linguistic inventors, those who presented themselves. Language is an essential prerequisite for human growth and development. It is one of the unique possessions of human beings. Actually, we have many properties, and our language is the biggest property that is provided by the super spiritual power of God to the man, especially time to time when man got birth on this land and he invented different type of scripts and different type of symbols of language for their communication. Today in this modern time, we communicate, we receive and send the messages through the different type of social media like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook we use in this modern time. It is the most modern time, and on the peak of time we are using all these things. These are the results of the development of human mind and expressions. It is very difficult to imagine man's life without language. For the reading of our holy scriptures in the Hindu mythology, in Sikhism, in Islam and even in Christianity, all the holy scriptures of our holy land are the expressions of the languages. Through the languages they express the ideas and thoughts. So we must understand in deep the value of words. Word is the common concept. Whether we discuss any part of speech, in our school we have studied different part of speech like noun, pronoun, adjective, adverb, preposition, conjunction. All these parts of speech we start from the common concept of words. So, dear friends, we must understand the music and magic of the word. It really helps a lot in getting energy in our mind for recreating our nation and society even, because we read different type of literatures in Hindi, English, Punjabi, Urdu, all the multiple languages that we study, they have literature behind them, they have grammar behind them. For understanding them completely, we must know the value of word, how to speak the word correctly and accurately. It depends upon our articulatory system. So for the perfection of the knowledge, for the perfection of the information in the language, it is greatly required. Without a language, human society is totally unthinkable. It is the only means of communication of thoughts and ideas, either in speech or writing. It is the life and blood of our culture and an essential part of human life. Here in this passage, we are expressing thoughts and ideas of communication. A number of ways we have invented and innovated. Online programs we have innovated, and through these programs we communicate. But one thing is common, that are our ideas and thoughts. Imagine for a moment what would happen if everyone in this world becomes dumb. There would be no communication, no exchange of ideas. There would be facial and hand signs, gestures, unintelligible shots only, and confusion would prevail everywhere. Man in the early ages observed birds and animals making noises to communicate their feelings. Friends, you know that our mind is the source of information, instruction, direction, and knowledge. But it is the heart, it is the capacity of the heart that make us able to feel our passions and emotions. Gradually, we start learning our feelings and passions from our parents. Gradually, he acquired the skill of communicating a large, which number of things we now call languages. Man alone is blessed and endowed with faculty of speech. It is only the man to whom language is the divine gift of God, and it is the language which distinguishes human beings from animals. Natural communication is possible among the 84 lakh species that we have around us. All animals, birds, plants, creatures are the helpers of our soul, and they communicate each other just by their sound and light. These are the two elements that helps them to understand each other, and through the sound and light they communicate each other. But it is the capacity of the human mind, that human mind has invented a number of symbols and scripts to to read, write, listen, speak, and learn new things. Everyone from birth to death makes use of it. By using a language, a person can win the heart of others. With the same language, he can lose his dignity and degrade himself in the society. Without language, personality cannot be developed and society cannot be erased. In fact, it gives rise to society, and the society in turn reshapes and remodels the language according to its need and desire. Both language and society are deeply related with each other. Time to time, society gets development. In this social development of our society and nation, greatly required our spiritual development. We think that we are developing our nation personally, professionally, economically, politically. That's well and good. But before it, by the spiritual standard of our nation, by the spiritual values of our nation is known as the unique throughout the world. All the worldly people know this thing. It is only India which can provide the spiritual knowledge in the whole world. So, dear friends, we are to maintain its linguistic style in the world. We are to maintain its spiritual values for enhancing the glimpses of our Indian glory. What is the meaning of language? Language consists of letters or alphabets, words, idioms, and syntax. It is through language that we learn to think, feel, judge, and express. The rich heritage of great ideas and actions passes over to the young generation in terms of its language. Thus, language helps the past come to be true in terms of present and helps us to build our own future. The English word language seems to have been derived from the Latin word lingua, which implies tongue. French term langue and parole also bearing impression of language. Dear friends, we are to understand this concept deeply. For the deepened studies of the all languages, we must go through first sound and light, which is the common for learning the new language. Next, we will study about the language, how it helps in understanding the culture, society, and nation throughout the world. Language is a complex phenomenon which includes the first cry of the baby, the most rudimentary forms of human speech, and all connections with all fields of education. Here, the term language means a conventional and specific form of speech. It is mutually intelligible to its members. It is exclusively a social phenomenon. Parole is speech. It is the individual side of language. We see an individual speaking and expressing his emotions, feelings, desires, and concepts which he has formulated while living in a social atmosphere. He is intelligible to those he talks to. The social aspect discussed above is static, while parole is always changing. The social reformers, the social reformers like Buddha, Mahavir, Mahavir Swami, Tilak, Gokhale, Mahatma Gandhi, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru have modified our ways of speech. During this process of modification, the person who modifies and the group which is modified renames unconscious of the alterations that are silently taken place by acting and contracting accordingly. Our social reformers, inventors, innovators of the different religions, those who born in the different language, caste, color, creed, but one thing was common among them, that was light and sound. After enlightenment, they invented different type of religions. As we study Gautam Buddha, who invented Buddhism, Mahavir Swami, who invented Jainism, Brahm Samaj, it was started by Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Arya Samaj, which was started by Dayanand Saraswati, and Swami Vivekananda, who started Ramkishan Mission. So our land is a land of starters, beginners and initiators. Bottom to top, root to fruit. They spent their time with nature. Nature became their true friend. It was familiar with them, and they spent their whole time, maximum time with nature. So, what was in their mind at that time? What was the thought and ideas came in their mind at that time? They tried to write from the other sources, and now we are reading the truth of science and spirituality about the religious starters. In our Hindu mythology, we study, and they have divided our time and word in different ages. First, that is the age of truth. In Hindi we say Satyug. Second, that is Treta. Third is Dwapar, and fourth is this dark age Kali Yuga. So the starter of Sikhism, Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, who came in 1469, and as per his inventions and innovations, he wrote that this was the light that came on this earth firstly, and later on, when this light collided with the 84 lakh species, the whole 84 lakh species started, vibrated, created in the living beings. So this was the how the generation came in form of existence. To the different scriptures, we understand very common thing that light and sound is a common concept of the Genesis. Our body is made by 5 elements in air, fire, soil, sky and water. We feel the presence of Lord or God, and our body communicate through these mediums. These are the mediums: air, fire, soil, sky and water. Through these mediums we communicate. Our soul communicate with God, with Lord. When these 5 elements become very simple for us to understand, then it becomes very easy to feel the presence of Lord. Swami Vivekananda, who went in the USA in 1893, he addressed the whole world with two words: my brothers and sisters of the America. How these two inventive words created the upheaval in the minds of the people, and it provided them peace of mind, tranquility of their heart. First, it was the result of the sound and light. There Swami Vivekananda proved that God does exist even where there is no presence of five elements: airless, fireless, soilless, skyless, water. Form is also the form of existence of Lord as per the notion of our the Vedas. Even he proved to the world, appealed, advocated by saying that our nation believes in the presence of Lord where there is no light, where there is no sound. So this was the greatest philosophy, superb, matchless, incomparable philosophy that was provided by Indian social reformist. What kind of language Swamiji used in that religious conference for addressing the nation, for representing our Indian culture? Everyone can think about it deeply, but it is possible only through the meditation. It is the meditation, internal meditation, method of meditation, which helps us to communicate with the Lord. Our soul starts communication inside the different organs. Then every organ helps us to understand the language function inside the human body. It's a matter of our intuition, insight. Our mind helps us in learning different type of new words, new languages. But how the animals, birds, plants communicate each other? What kind of language they use? What kind of symbols and sounds they use to communicate to each other? It can be understood only by doing the meditation, by the repetition of the words, by chanting hymns of the different religious starters, by the devotion and dedication towards the worshipping of our Indian land. We can know these things. Dear friends, for understanding deeply the concept of language, we must go through the different type of conclusions, definitions, which was written by the different inventors of the language. Language is one of the most important characteristic forms of behavior. Through the language, we try to identify anybody's society, food, fashion, friends, history, background. We try to know through the language. Language is the entire complex of phenomenon associated with human vocal and auditory communication of emotions and ideas. Language is species specific. Language is one of the symbols of a nation. It expresses the mental character of the people who speak it and reflects the features of their natural surroundings. A language is a symbol system based on pure or arbitrary convention, infinite, extendable, and modifiable according to the changing needs and conditions of the speaker. Language is the instruction whereby human communicate, interact with each other by means of habitually used oral, auditory, arbitrary symbol. Further, it is described as language is a purely human and non instinctive method of communicating ideas, emotions, and desires by means of a system of voluntarily produced symbols. Language is a set of human habits. Our habits are also identified by our language, the purpose of which is to give expression to thoughts and feelings. Dear friends, if we want to change the fortune of our nation, what should we do? Then, first of all, we are to change the ideology of our nation. Publicly, we are to change the ideas, and these ideas can bring revolutionary and visionary change in our nation. Personally and publicly, we feel it. It becomes a part and parcel of our life. Ideas. How our ideas helps in changing our future. Whatsoever we think today, that becomes a part of you. Whatsoever we view through our eyes, the same message comes in our words. And when we speak, means when we try to use the language through the tongue, that preceded towards the actions. Repetition of the actions becomes our habit. And time and again we do the same thing in our habit, that becomes the part of our character. And ultimately character becomes our fortune or fate or luck. So likely that we can change our nation. It was addressed by Swami Vivekananda to the whole world. Oxford English Dictionary defines language as words and the methods of combining them for the expansion and expression of thought. Language is an articulated system of signs, primarily in the medium of speech. Language is the expression of ideas by means of which speech sounds are combined into words, words combined into sentences, and combination of sentences give answers to ideas and thoughts. Language exists only when it is listened to as well as spoken. The hearer is an indispensable partner. Language is a system of arbitrary vocal symbols by means of which a social group cooperates. Language is a type of speech in which ties of union are created by a mere exchange of words. Language is a social activity rather than a means of individual self-expression. We are studying through the definitions of the language. One thing is very common, that are ideas and thoughts. Our mind stores the energy. It reserves energy in the form of ideas and thoughts. Through the way of rays of light and waves of sound, our mind starts storing the energy. What kinds of language we use? There are different forms of language. These forms are based upon the following elements: historical basis, geographical basis, experimental basis. The basis of the originator of language. On the basis of the above factors, language may be classified in the following kinds. Ideal language. It is a literary language. Means our ideas helps in generating different type of novels, essays, dramas, poems. We understand through the ideas. Ideas work as a tool in producing different type of literary items. Subdialect or local dialect or regional language. It is not at the level of literary language. The difference between language and dialect is like the difference of noun, difference of mountain and hill. Everest is the mountain and Moti Dungri is a hill. Likely that we can understand language and dialect. Throughout the world, English is the international language. Numberless dialects are used that were invented by the specific particular societies. As per the differentiations and variations in their climate, commercial language, language of different professions. Commercially, in the different type of trades required different type of language. In hospital, in education, industry, agriculture, communication, transportation, we use different type of language. Next is mixed language. Language combined with so many languages and dialects. It shows the purely Indian linguistic style, because there is no development of a particular single language, but so many languages are used by the different societies in our nation. But it is very important thing also in the language that we have unity in diversity. Hindi is our mother tongue that establishes the oneness, equality and unity in the whole nation. Code language, it is secret language that we use in the technology, electronology and digitology. In the field of medical science, engineering, arts, commerce, in the different fields we use code language. International language, it is spoken by all in the world. Mother tongue or mother language, it is the language of mother and father. It is learned by the child with imitation of the language of mother. It is called as the first language, that is Hindi language is the mother tongue for many people of India. Foreign language, it originated in foreign country and is brought to other country. This type of language is called foreign language for the other countries. That is, English is a foreign language for Indian people. Our Hindi is foreign language for the foreigners. Parts of language. What are the parts of language? In the parts of language, first of all, we study syntax. This part of language is related to sentence construction. One thing, that is sentence construction. Morphonology. Morphonology is a part of sentence, having the use of noun, pronoun, adjective, verb, adverb, conjunction, interjection, prefix and suffix, etc. Second part of language is wordology. Word formation is learnt in wordology. By using different type of words, by combining the words each other, we create different type of words. That is wordology. Phonetics, it is the science of sound. It is the science of sound. Mean manner of articulation and place of articulation we study in phonetics. When we try to understand, or when we know how to speak the sound, when to speak the sound, why to speak the sound, where to speak the sound, then we understand the part of language through phonetics. Semantics, it is related to the meaning of the language. It is related to the meaning of the language, and it is the soul of language. Means understanding of the words. That is semantics. Means our mind tries to understand whether we are using any language. Our senses feel it. That is semantics. Origin of language. There is no certainty about the origin and nature of language. Several theories have been propounded in support of its origin and nature. Language includes all those verbal and non-verbal actions of human beings that are related to communication of ideas. Postures, gestures, written and printed symbols, etc. are basis of the origin of language. The following are the different theories for the origination of language. One is Celestial theory. It propagates that language is originated by God. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, I am the secret. Om. In all the Vedas, Om is the combination of the sound A, U, M. Means A, U, M, which is the root of all sounds, and it represents the union of three gods, Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh. Development theory. According to this theory, the language is the result of development and evolution. Number 3 is symbolic theory. Language is originated on the basis of the different symbols of things, revealing different feelings and thoughts. Bow theory or echoic theory of imitative theory. Max Muller is the propounder of this theory. Each substance has its peculiar ring or sound. The sound of the things is the basis of the origination of language. Next is ding dong theory. It says that language is originated due to the sound symbols of objects. Ding dong is the sound of the bell. Sing song theory or woo woo theory. Professor Hadson is the propounder of this theory. He says that expression for love song in a low soft voice is the basis for the origination of language. The language of our remote forefathers was ceaseless humming and crooning without thoughts but with joy and delight. Next is contact theory. Language sounds are articulated and produced due to the need of different senses, that is hunger, thirst and sex. Next is a textual and gestural theory. It propagates that language was originated due to the expressions revealed through textures and gestures of human beings. This is gestural theory. Through the gestures we try to express something. We try to reveal something. Ye he ho theory. According to this theory, the basis of the origin of language is labor sounds. The laborers make the sound of ye he ho while they do their labor. It is the expression of laborers with inhalation and exhalation. What happens while inhaling and exhaling? We get energy. We feel energy in our mind and heart. In all the cells of our human body, we feel inhalation of air in the air bags. Our lungs are the air bags. While creating and generating any type of language, we use these two types of ways. First, that is inhalation, and while inhalation we take the air in, and while exhalation we put the air out from the lungs. Poo-poo theory of emotion theory. It is the abrupt expression of sudden sensation and emotions. Tata theory. It is a part of textual and gestural theory. Integrated theory. This theory is based upon the integrated approach of the above theories. This theory is based on two factors: gestures and sound groups. Scholars and learners of the language, those who are learning listening from the different universities, we simply believe that we try to express, reveal through our body language, gesture and posture. What are the characteristics of language? Language is not a parental property. Dear friends, never be confused by this point of view. If we think that it's our parental theory or parental property, then it's our confusion. And the history is evidence. History provides proof of these things. The persons, those who came on this earth, their language was entirely different from their parents. Language is an earned property. People learn it from society. It is also the feature of language. Language is based upon social contact and environment. Language is conventional and traditional and a result of evolution. Language is always changing and a dynamic process. Language is not complete in its form. Language goes from synthesis to analysis and from simple to complex. Language has the character of universality. Every language is unique. No two languages are identical as they grow in different cultural backgrounds. Language is a system of sound which is based upon a certain degree of pitch, stress and intonation. These are the name of the changes in the voice. Rise and fall in the voice, very simply we can understand it. It happens usually by the change in temperature of the body and by the change in pressure of the body. These changes come in our language and voice. Language is arbitrary and conventionalized thing which is not static and permanent. It is arbitrary because it is product of long process of development. As it is rightly said that Rome is not built in day. Likely that we say it is a product of long process of development because the whole civilizations and cultures that were invented and developed by the land of India throughout the world, it happened before immemorial time that was uncounted in history. Language is a symbolic system in which the expressed experiences become widened, enlarged, and embrace all the impressions of human beings. Scope of language. Language makes existence of society possible. One scope of language is it makes existence of society possible. Without language we cannot imagine about the existence of society. Second thing, language makes it possible to understand the speaker. Third is language delimits social groups. It delimits social groups. Language connects one with the external world. Nature of language. Language is learnt. Sometimes we discuss nature of nature. Sometimes we discuss natural elements that was expressed by William Wordsworth. He expresses the nature in the form of trees, plants, birds, mountains, hills, plains, plateaus, and celestial bodies, the sun, the moon, the stars, the earth, the ocean. These are also the part of nature. But now here we are trying to understand nature of our nature. It is the software of our mind. When it is developed inside the human body, then we try to speak different language because of having the different software of language in the mind. Language is a form of behavior. How to behave, it teaches us, which is learnt and not an automatic process. It's not an automatic process. It's not a natural process. But it is artificial and unnatural process. We need helpers, providers. The infant knows no language. He has to learn it over a long period of time. He begins learning by making various isolated sounds like papa, baba, dada. Later on, he develops his babbling sounds into the speech sounds of his group. This he does by imitation and practice. This is the imitation theory by which a child learns from his mother. Thus, language learning is an activity and it has to be learned through efforts. Language is a system. Language is an organized way of behavior. It is systematic, scientific, organized way of behavior, which can be described in an orderly way. Each language is a unique system, and with the help of it, meaning is conveyed. As the system of the human body functions through different organs such as the heart, lungs, brain, eyes and ears. These different organs are interconnected and work in coordination. Similarly, the system of a language functions through sounds, words and structures. When someone says, "My friend is reading a book," he uses language, he uses sounds and words and an accepted sentence pattern SVO. Subject, verb, object. So language is a system. It should be taught and learnt as a system. System, order and scientific, technical. These terms are used while talking about the language. Language is a system of systems. Language is a system of systems which includes phonemes, morphemes and syntax. As body has blood circulatory system, nervous system, bone structure system. If any one of the three systems fails to operate individually, the language will not be correct. If pronunciation is correct, but order is not correct, it will not be understood. Similarly, a person is trying to express future time, but using ed at the end of his verbs will not be understood properly. Language is system of symbols. Language is a system of symbols. The railway guard uses certain symbols, the green flag, the green lamp, the red flag or lamp. The red flag or the red lamp is the symbol of danger stop. This system works effectively because their symbols are known. Symbols stand for things and they are not things themselves. The word table is only a symbol for the object which we call table. Symbols make the system of language. Symbols of language are arbitrary. Symbols of language are arbitrary. These are man-made. It means that there is no necessary relation between any language item and what it indicates. There is no visual similarity between the symbol man and the actual man. In English, a certain animal is called horse. In French, cheval. In German, bird. In Hindi, ghoba. Or in Hindi, goda. There is no logical or scientific explanation why we call these words so. We call these so because it has been called so from earlier times. Symbols of language are vocal. A language system does not exist in a vacuum. It is primarily used in speech. Writing is graphical representation of speech. There are many languages which are only in spoken form. They don't have any written form. There are other types of symbols which cannot be called vocal symbols. For example, gestures, signal flags, green or red, etc. are visual symbols, and beating of drums, singing of bells are auditory symbols. They do not form language. All the sounds produced by the human vocal organs cannot be included in linguistic symbols. For example, sneeze, cough, etc. have no symbolic value. Language is unique. No two languages are alike. They differ in words, sounds and structures. The grammar, which is true for Latin, may not be French. There are geographical and cultural diversities, and that is the main reason why one language differs from the other. Language is a skill subject. A skill is described as knowledge put to active use. Learning a language is performance based, while learning about a language is knowledge based. Language learning is essentially skill based. There should be a lot of repetition in speaking or writing, reading or writing of the language, because it is a skill like swimming, singing, dancing, etc. All these can be learned through practice. This needs practice, a long run practice it needs. Language is a communication. All languages are used for the purpose of communication. A language is a means by which a person expresses his thoughts and feelings to others. According to Jesperson, the purpose of language is to give expression to thoughts and feelings, and especially to impart them to others. Language says, "Sweet is the expression of ideas by means of which speech sounds are combined into words, words are combined into sentences, and combination of sentences gives answer to ideas and thoughts." So it becomes essential on the part of a person that he should have the right type of pronunciation which is intelligible to others. Ben Jonson rightly says, speech is the instrument of society. Language relates to culture. It is generally said that each language is the outcome of the culture to which it belongs. Languages are different because their cultures are different. For example, the word pub, a roadside wine stall, is related to a particular English society and its culture. It has meaning only in relation to that society and culture. The standard British English RP, received pronunciation, and standard American English differ both in spellings and pronunciation in its own culture, but not in the other. Yet each one is correct. Only a couple of centuries ago, choice was written choice and said as scythe. The name of Shakespeare was also spelled in different ways. Language is not static. Language has its roots in culture, which is always changing. We can't say that what is true of a language today was true of its yesterday or will be true of its tomorrow. Change in language does not come in pronunciation, vocabulary, and ways of expression, but system of writing also undergoes a change. In 16th century, the letter K was sounded in the words know, knife, knowledge, but now it is not sounded in the above said words. The word branch was coined a few years back to cover a meal, which is considered breakfast and lunch. Nice today means happily. 6th century, foolish. 12th or 13th century, delicates. Language is a habit formation. Language is essentially a habit forming process. This process is made up of habits and one requires continuous practice in the use of language. Language is a powerful tool. It is very powerful tool for human civilization. Dear friends, scholars and teachers and trainers, professionals and professors, advocates, administrators, advisors, those who are listening with 100% present sense of mind, it is really useful for them. Because if they want to bring newness, innovative approach in their system of 4 modules, reading, writing, speaking and listening, definitely it will help them to understand the spiritual standard of our nation. These are the spiritual values, moral values of our nation that will help for the betterment and upliftment of our nation and society. So for finer, nicer, higher results of our workings in any field, it needs great concentration by doing yoga, pranayam, meditation. We will get expertise in doing in any profession. It is necessary that the Indian pupils should not only understand English when it is spoken or written, but also that he should himself be able to speak and write it. English is a gateway to world culture, and it is rightly said by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, English works like a window of the world. In India, English should not be taught as first language, but as second language. It should be taught as a living language and not as a literature. It is important for an English teacher to know what he wants to achieve by teaching English. The knowledge of aims of teaching English will enable him to decide his methods and techniques of teaching English. The main aim of English should be linguistic and practical and not literary or aesthetic, so as to help students in acquiring practical command of English, which means that the students should be able to understand spoken English and learn to speak English, to read English and to write English. Under British rule, the teacher of English was hardly any educated. He was required to force half-cooked, indigestible food of English down the throats of his pupils in order to show results. But now the situation has changed after the independence. Therefore, the aims and objectives of teaching English as second language have to be kept in view while teaching in schools, because the basis principle of teaching English is know what you do and only do what you know. The aims and objectives of teaching English should be clearly understood by every teacher of English, so that he takes up relevant activities in the classroom that are in consonance with the objectives listed below. Knowledge of aims and objectives will help the students to enjoy the learning of English, help them to listen and understand English spoken by teacher, to speak English with the teacher and with their classmates. Give them training in reading and understanding English. Help them to write English. Develop study skills in students. Help them to read, understand and enjoy short poems in English. Help them to learn the elements of English language such as sounds, words, phrases, their spelling, sentence structure, etc. Aims are related to the general purpose of education, whereas objectives are related to the specific purpose of content matter of curriculum. Without an aim, a person is like a traveler who does not know when to go and where to go, what he wants to do and why he wants to do it. English has been used in India before independence and after independence, with charging aims and status from time to time. The aims changed rapidly after independence with the importance given to our own language. There are some general aims of learning English in India which are unchanging. They relate to the fact that English is a word language. It also acts as the link between the center and the state and between the various languages groups in India. Secondly, English is learnt as a library language for acquiring the knowledge of science and technology, trade and commerce. Thirdly, English acts as a window to the world of several branches of knowledge, including its rich literature, arts and music. So in English learning, fixing aims and objectives is very important. Once we have fixed the aims and objectives of teaching English, we can make the efforts to achieve them. Curriculum, textbooks, methods and techniques of teaching and evaluation in system all are determined by aims of teaching. Aims. An aim means foresight in advance at the end of possible termination of the activity. According to Dewey, an aim implies an ordered activity. An ordered activity. Aims are the direct outcomes of the purpose from which a certain activity must be conducted. Aims give direction to the activity. Importance of aims. Aims give direction to the process. Aims motivate us. Helpful in evaluating power of action. Aims are helpful in school administration. Aims are helpful in achieving national and international goals. Aims are helpful in avoiding wastage in the field of education. What are the objectives? How to define this term objective in English? According to Dictionary of Education, educational objective is the end towards which a school-sponsored activity is directed. Objectives are the means to achieve the aims. Objectives are the step towards the attainment of aims. A study of objective helps in achieving the set aims. According to B.S. Bloom, objectives are the desired goals or outcome at which instruction is aimed. What are the characteristics of good objective? They should be specific and precise. Objectives should be attainable. They should be based on psychological principles. They should lead to the development of the pupils. They should be helpful in acquiring democratic aims. They should lead to the modification of students' behavior for the better. A good objective is tangible in ordinary circumstances. It should be in terms of change expected in pupil and not as duty of the teachers. Each student should have only one objective in it. According to P. Gurry, the careful thinking out of a detailed and well-defined objective for the lessons will be more than almost anything else to improve teachers' work and to make it effective. Dear brothers, sisters, friends, scholars, you are really utilizing your time in learning a great source of knowledge, information, instruction and direction. Practice of listening is the first and foremost priority. Listening is the very foundation of language. When a child learns any language, including his mother tongue, he first listens and then imitates sounds or words. Reading silently. When one reads silently, he reads with full concentration. It helps him in understanding the content. Expression. When one starts understanding a language, then he must be trained to express his thoughts and feelings. Speaking. It should be done to facilitate correct pronunciation and intonation. Writing. Reading makes a man perfect, but writing makes one exact. Dear friends, the students of English literature will read this thing entirely and completely through the words of Francis Bacon, who has written a very important essay, knowledgeable essay, that is of studies. Reading loudly, it also helps to improve pronunciation and to improve agitation. In this context, Dr. Mike, for Indian children, the ability to read is more important than the ability to write because they have less opportunity to speak that language. Aims of teaching English. For us who speak English, English is everything. English is not a subject. English is our life. But this is not true in India because here it is foreign language. It is taught as a foreign language and second language. Its teaching and learning in school is inspired by one aim, the ultimate aim. This aim can be achieved by acquiring practical command over English. Yet clear-cut objectives should be stated so that good planning can be done and right type of methods and techniques of teaching can be adopted as the careful thinking out of a detailed and well-defined objective for the lessons will be more than almost anything else to improve teachers' work and to make it effective. What are the aims of teaching English? According to Thompson and White, there are 4 specific aims of teaching English: to understand spoken English, to speak English correctly, to understand written English, to write English correctly. The ability to learn spoken English, completeness to be dwelt. Completeness to be dwelt. The students can understand the meaning of words, phrases, sentences in context, understand elementary intonation patterns, understand simple statements, questions, and commands, understand simple narrations and descriptions, content specifications, conversation in the classroom, dialogues, stories, descriptions, etc. in the books prescribed, the ability to speak English, completeness to be dwelt, completeness to be dwelt while speaking. The students can produce English speech sounds correctly, use appropriate word stress, sentence stress, and elementary intonation patterns. Select a language appropriate to the context. Content specifications, conventional greetings, answers to questions, dialogue, role plays, reading aloud of reading passage, etc. The ability to read and understand written English, completeness to be dwelt. The students can read phrases, develop desirable silent reading habits, acquire reasonable speed in reading, grasp the meaning of words and sentences from the context, local central idea of the passage, content specifications. English readers, supplementary readers, and other materials prepared by teachers. The ability to write English, completeness to be developed. The students can master the mechanics of writing, use the capital letters and marks of pronunciation, punctuation, spell the words correctly, write neatly and clearly with legible speed, use appropriate words and sentence patterns, content specifications, transcription, practice in handwriting, dictation of words or sentences, short paragraphs, short pieces of controlled composition first, relatively free composition later. Aims of teaching English at junior and senior levels. Student at the end of third level should be able to make simple statements through English. He should be able to frame short, simple sentences to express him through speech and writing. Speak with a pronunciation that is acceptable. He should acquire a command over the phonemes of languages and speak English with proper stress and intonation. Write English legibly and coherently using proper punctuation and capitals where necessary and correct spelling. Respond to short conversational questions and to ask questions himself. Acquire reading ability and read the materials that is appropriate for his level. Acquire a vocabulary which, though limited, is enough to help him in the use of language that he makes. Understand English when spoken. His level of speaking should approximate the native speaking, so that if a native speaker speaks English which is not above his level, he should be able to understand it. Developing strategies for developing listening skills. Language is a skill subject. The power of expression in our language is a matter of skill and not of knowledge. This power grows by exercise and not by knowing meaning and rules. The skill lies in the manipulations of speech habits. Language learning is essentially a habit of forming process during which we acquire new habits of speaking it, reading it, and writing it. In teaching English, good deal of practice in speaking should be given, because a pupil learns to speak only through active speaking. Basic and fundamental structures of the language should be drilled so that these should become automatic. Pupils should be able to express their thoughts in speech and writing and to receive with comparison whatever is conveyed to them in language. Language is a skill subject like swimming, typing and dancing. These need to be practiced. Similarly, language demands practice. Thank you, brothers and sisters, those who are listening carefully. Really, it will help them in enhancing their abilities in understanding, reading, writing, speaking English, and you can bring innovative and inventive approach by going through this lecture. Dear friends, brothers, sisters, you are listening the truth of different languages, cultures. It is all the results of different climates. These are the results of different climates. If there are different type of climates we have in the world, that is due to change in temperature and pressure, likely that we have so many changes in our languages. So thanks all of you, thanks God who has given us this wonderful time for sharing, subscribing, speaking English language. Thank you.